There's only one place to start. Eberechi Eze. Mark, no Eberechi Eze in the squad at all. We were expecting him to be in the squad yesterday because Oliver Glasner said he and Mark Gay he would be. Eze isn't. Where are we right now with this deal?
Well, clearly there's been a lot that's happened since Oliver Glasner gave that news conference where he said that they'd both be in the squad. It all kicked off late last night, really. I think we were all on our phones at various points during the transfer show into the evening, late into the night, probably past midnight, past your bedtime. You were doing calls on Eberechi Eze.
I was giving my son a bath.
Oh, there you go. Too much information. But we leave every detail on the table here at Sky Sports News because that's what people expect. The deal, it's worth a total of £67.5 million, which is 60 million with 7.5 in add-ons, which ironically is less than the release clause that existed and expired on the Friday before Crystal Palace's first Premier League game of the season. We're expecting him to have his medical tomorrow. Of course, there were suggestions he'd be involved with Crystal Palace tonight in that crucial Europa Conference League qualifying match. And it intrigues me, this situation, because the agreement that was in place with Tottenham Hotspur certainly had an option where Eberechi Eze would be involved for Crystal Palace. And they were comfortable with that, and Crystal Palace wanted him to be a part of their showpiece European match in South East London. The fact that he's now joining Arsenal and he's not involved in the squad would suggest that Arsenal didn't have the same arrangement that perhaps Tottenham Hotspur had before they agreed this deal. Personal terms, all accepted, sorted, not a problem. We've been saying throughout the course of this summer that Eberechi Eze was a target for Arsenal, and you'd imagine that a lot of the groundwork on any potential deal would have been done in June. So really, over the course of the last 24 hours, it was a case of picking up the phone saying, yeah, we'll match the deal, we'll do the same deal. We know what the personal terms are. We want to make this happen, and we want him as an Arsenal player now.
Michael, it is an extraordinary deal, isn't it? It was an extraordinary night as well. Just picking up on what Mark had said there, talking about Arsenal's interest, people think, well, it just came around on Wednesday. It clearly didn't. They were looking at Eberechi Eze since June. They've got a long-standing admiration for the player. A lot of the groundwork, as Mark said there, was done in June as well. It was only because Kai Havertz, that was a big contributory factor in this. We're still waiting for the exact time that Kai Havertz will be out, but it's clearly something that has worried Arsenal and got them back in to the market for Eberechi Eze. And I think they wanted assurances that there's going to be sales at Arsenal. I'm sure in the background they are working on a number of sales to make sure that everything will be all right financially with regard to this deal. Michael, you were heavily involved with phone calls with myself, with Tottenham Hotspur around this deal. You just explain exactly what happened last night with regard to Arsenal, but in particular with Tottenham Hotspur as well.
Well, Tuesday we got there was information online that Spurs had agreed everything with Crystal Palace. We understand that wasn't completely true, and that there was minute details to finish. But then yesterday, those details seemed to be completed and terms were agreed with the player and the club. What we understood was that Spurs were happy for Eze to play in the UEFA Conference League game tonight. Maybe there was just one or two more things that needed to be completely finalised. But look, all Arsenal really needed to do was phone Crystal Palace and say, what have Tottenham given you here? Fine, this is what we'll do, and we'll probably match it. And for me, this is what's happened. But of course, it's so frustrating for Spurs supporters because you talk about Kai Havertz getting injured. James Maddison got injured around 3 weeks ago. So the frustration, I think, for Spurs fans is they wish it could have got done a lot sooner.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, and I think a lot of Spurs fans are saying, why did it take Tottenham Hotspur that long to do the deal and Arsenal have done it within a day? That's what it looks like. We were talking about a lot of the background work had been done in June, Mark, but also when you are trying to match a deal, it doesn't take any time, does it?
No.
Because you know what they've agreed with Crystal Palace. So you go over there and say, right, this is what we'll do as well. And then it's up to the player to decide where he wants to go.
And Arsenal are playing a blinder in this respect because they've sat there, they've not wasted time at the negotiation table. They've just allowed Spurs to do all the legwork, knowing that this is a lad that's an Arsenal fan. He wants to play for Arsenal, and they probably would have been given some assurances from his representatives in those conversations in June and July that, like, you know, if he had the choice of where he could go, where would he want to go? Well, he's an Arsenal fan, so actually Arsenal is his destination of choice. And therefore, they would have been so relaxed in this situation. And they've acted like a big club. I said on the show at 4 o'clock that it's almost like this is chapter 1 from the Real Madrid school of signing players. We'll just wait because we're a huge club. We know the player wants to come to us. We're that big a draw, so therefore we can be so relaxed in this situation. We know we can match what Spurs are willing to pay, and all we have to do is pick up the phone and action the deal. And it's as simple as that. And it feels like it is like that simple. So many of these deals, whilst we report on every cough and splutter on Sky Sports News and we try and keep fans abreast of every development as it happens, ultimately, the conversations are quite short between clubs. You know, this is what we're willing to pay, yes or no. OK, let me speak to my board. The answer's no. You know, you can often put an offer in and get it rejected within 20 minutes. There isn't a long conversation to be had, and it feels like this is a prime example of a club being effective, Eze knowing exactly where he wants to go, Palace happy with the selling price for a player that has 2 years left on his contract, and therefore the deal happens so quickly.
Do you think, when Mikel Arteta gets asked tomorrow in the press conference, did you only go in for Eberechi Eze when Kai Havertz got injured? He's not going to say yes, is he?
And I don't think he did. No. I remember being on the show with Dharmesh in June and July, and I remember saying to Dharmesh, is Noni Madueke and Eberechi Eze a target for Arsenal? Both of them? Yes. You said to me yes.
Thank goodness I said yes.
You did. No, but because I was surprised that they would go into the market for 2 of those types of players that were going to cost in excess of 100 million, big outlays from 2 rival Premier League sides. You said yes. And whilst that was the case and turns out to be the case, there was an interest in getting Nwaneri's contract sorted. And, of course, the injury to Kai Havertz has affected things as well.
Exactly.
But there clearly was a plan that he was a target this summer.
Yeah, so I was told throughout this window that Arsenal were definitely interested in the player. He was one of their top targets at the start of the window. But it was going to be a case of it was going to go quiet. I was actually told it was going to go quiet for a little while because of 2 reasons. Arsenal had other areas of the pitch that they wanted to focus on because the timing of certain deals had to happen then. For example, Zubimendi, and they were chasing Gyökeres for many, many weeks of this transfer window. And the second one is what you've mentioned, Ethan Nwaneri and his new contract, because there was a big doubt about whether he was going to stay at Arsenal. He only had a year left of his contract. There was a lot of talk that Borussia Dortmund were interested in trying to take him, but Arsenal managed to get that one over the line. So people then thought, right, focus is now going to be on sales, and have they moved away from Eberechi Eze? But we always maintained that if a market opportunity presented itself to Arsenal, they wanted to be in a position where they could act. And clearly, they have put themselves in a position to act because now he's on the verge of joining Arsenal. Just on the Eze deal and what it could mean for Arsenal and their title chances. A lot of people are describing it as the missing piece in their puzzle to try and win the league. Do you see it as that, Mark?
I certainly see this as a signing. It's a statement signing. It's an England international with a World Cup in less than 12 months' time. He's an outstanding talent. He's the type of player that can make things happen from nothing. He's amongst exceptional players. He will provide another area of attack. And when you start to look at that Arsenal team on paper, Bukayo Saka, Eberechi Eze, the likes of Martin Odegaard as an 8, alongside Declan Rice as an 8, Zubimendi now, that missing piece to shield the back 4 that allows those other players to get forward and be expressive. Gyökeres, I'm a big fan of as well. I know he didn't have the best start to his Premier League season, but I still think he would deliver goals for Arsenal. And then someone like Eze, it feels like this is an Arsenal team that has no excuses to not go on and win the title. They have all of the tools in that squad. Mikel Arteta has once again been backed by the board and supported by Andrea Berta, the sporting director. And now, after years and years of getting so close and being second, surely now, this is Arsenal's time. This is their time to go and win a Premier League title for the first time in over 20 years. And I think, do you know what, I just want to say one thing about Eberechi Eze, and Michael will be able to agree with me, and you're probably the same, Dharmesh. He is an exceptional, talented player. Off the pitch, He's an exceptional human being. And I think that's one of the key things that Arsenal have got here. They've got a real personality, someone with good morals, good values. He's an excellent team player, a very valued member of that dressing room at Crystal Palace. The fans absolutely adore him. And every time I've interviewed him or spent time with him, whether it was at QPR, who, by the way, get 15% of the profit, so QPR fans will be happy today off the back of this deal. A, they get some money in the bank, and B, they see one of their own go on and achieve things with a huge club. I think this just works in so many ways for all parties connected.
Exceptional player, exceptional human beings. Both of you are 1 out of 2 on that as well, so congrats.
The expected signing of Eberechi Eze has completely changed the feeling of the transfer window for Arsenal supporters. The Gunners have been busy and aggressive in this window, signing 6 players for around £190 million before the Premier League season even kicked off. That included £64 million striker Victor Gyökeres and Martin Zubimendi for around £60 million, but it is the signing of England international Eze that has supporters feeling like they have won the window. A huge factor is trumping their rivals Tottenham Hotspur, who had agreed terms with both Palace and the player hours before the Gunners swooped. It all happened in a few whirlwind hours. Earlier on Wednesday, it looked as though the 27-year-old Eze would be heading to the white side of North London. But the deal was not completed, and the reason was Palace's Europa Conference League playoff match with Fredrikstad on Thursday. The Eagles wanted to keep Eze for a game they view as pivotal to their season, and one they did not want to tackle without having a replacement in place. Palace manager Oliver Glasner was strong in his pre-match press conference, saying that Eze and Mark Gahey, who has also been linked with a move away, were committed to the team. Over at the Emirates Stadium, a subplot was brewing. Arsenal were holding an open training session at their ground which did not feature Kai Havertz. It was later revealed the German international was being assessed for a knee injury. Despite the exact severity of the injury being unclear, Arsenal knew enough to make a move. Hours later on Wednesday afternoon, Arsenal bid for Eze, deciding to act on their long-standing interest in the player. With Eze being a boyhood Arsenal fan who played in their academy, it was an easy decision for the player.